Hello, everyone. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Welcome, good, to our very first community conversation session for NX. I'm Taryn Blake, Community Engagement Program Manager, and I'll be your host for this enablement session brought to you by Siemens Digital Industry Software. Today, we are exploring how to get started in NXOpen using Python. So a couple of housekeeping notes. During the presentation, we're expecting a really big group today, so we will have microphones and cameras off because we are recording. So we'll keep those off, but we encourage you to use the reaction buttons. Of course, hearts, thumbs up, claps for our speaker are appreciated. And the button is at the top of your screen as some of you are discovering for any questions you have along the way. Your participation is important, so don't hesitate to engage. You'll also see that the chat is closed for this session, again, because it's such a large group, but we do have the Q&A feature enabled. So you should see the Q&A button in the upper middle of your screen. At any time, if you have a question for the presentation, definitely put it there, or even for myself as moderator, I'll be moderating the chat while Frederik is presenting. And also check the Q&A to see if you see a question that you feel needs a thumbs up. So we may end up with a lot of questions, in which case we'll definitely start with those that have the most votes, the most thumbs up. So wanted to make sure that's clear for the crowd that we have today. And then after the presentation, we will have Q&A. At that time, you can raise your hand to be unmuted. So I see a couple of folks have their hands raised right now. I'm guessing that you probably were hitting that when you're looking for the reaction button. They are right next to each other. But during the Q&A, if your hand is raised, we'll definitely come to you. We can unmute your mic and ask a question verbally as well. So we will have a couple of surveys at the end. So a pop-up survey, and then we'll also have a QR code survey that you could do afterwards if you'd like to, which we appreciate. And the recording will be available on Friday. So hopefully those are all the things that you'd want to know starting off. And as you might be able to see already, he has his video on. Our speaker for today is, our presenter is Frederik Vanhee. He's a community catalyst, so part of our official super user program. And he is an expert in structural analysis automation with over 15 years of experience using Simcenter 3D and NXOpen. He's developed advanced methodologies for ship and offshore structure design and created a widely adapted NXOpen automation library, now available as the Python package nxopentse, I guess is how we pronounce that. But you may have seen it if you've been looking for Python resources. As an independent developer, Frederik focuses on building tools that streamline engineering workflows and make high-level automation accessible to a broader range of users. So definitely appreciate you taking this time, Frederik, to do this. The basic steps or portions that he's going to go through. What is NXOpen? So he'll give a little presentation on that and show just getting started. How do we get started? Hello world, as all devs know, that sentence, and then configuring the VS Code for NXOpen with Python. So as mentioned, we are completely live. We'll do a live Q&A before we end the call today. So definitely use the digital Q&A, and we'll get started.
So short intro about myself. As Taryn already mentioned, I have a background in structural engineering and CAE. It's a very steep learning curve, but once you get your setup going and you know the basics of how it works, it's actually not that hard. So that's why I also started my NXOpen Udemy course to show people step by step from the beginning with little or no prior knowledge and how you can get started doing that. And it's for that course also I won the Community Tutorial Titan medal and the Excellence Award also this year at Realize Live. That's about it, I think, about me. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot. So what is NXOpen and why do we want to use it? Well, NXOpen is an automatic programmable interface, a so-called API. And what it does, it allows you to control NX by code instead of doing it through the user interface, let's say with a keyboard and a mouse. What can you do with this API? Basically, almost everything you can do as a user in the user interface. So that's a lot. Everything you're doing, creating extrusions, creating sketches, quite hard. You can create extrusions, lots of repetitive work. That can also all be done with NXOpen. Concerning languages, Python is not the only language. If I'm not mistaken, might miss one, but I think these are the options. It's C++, .NET, both Visual Basic and C#. Excuse me. Java, and then of course Python is the reason why we are here. And you can actually mix languages. So you can run a journal, one journal in C# and then the next journal run it in Python. You can actually mix, and NX will just execute those. So why do we want to use NXOpen? One option is to add missing functionality, and these examples are a bit trivial, but for example, say you wanted to apply a random color to all faces of a body in a part, you can, select all those faces and change the color and pick a random color. But you could also write an NXOpen journal and to do that for you. Another one is for performing repetitive work. Say you have to add sketches, bodies, and datums to specific layers. You could also generate or create an NXOpen journal, which does that for you. Takes all the sketches and sends them to layer. It's a typical layer, I think 30 for sketches, all bodies to layer 25, and all datums to layer 60, for example. And you can also use it to create a combination of steps. If you typically have a certain workflow and the flow is more or less the same or repetitive, then you can also add all those steps in one operation and run it as a journal. Some Python specific things, and I've seen quite a few people asking this kind of stuff, is that NXOpen is not a package like NumPy or Pandas. So there is no pip install NXOpen going on. And another often misconception is that NXOpen journals do not run standalone. So that means you need NX to execute the code. So you can't do Python and then say my NXOpen journal and it will run. This will not work. What you have to do instead is within NX, you need to go to Menu, Tools, Automation, Journal, and then you can play your journal from there. But I'll show you that in a minute. Some general information on NXOpen is actually available through the NX help. If you go Menu, Help, NX help, and I think I can show you that right away. Is this big enough? I hope this is big enough for everyone to see. We can go to Help. I'll try and go slow. We can go NX help, and then it opens up in a different screen. Let me share that. So then we go into the general NX help. If we scroll all the way to the bottom, we have a section here called Programming Tools. And there we can go to the online help. And we end up in the Programming Tools help. A very interesting one is a NXOpen Getting Started guide. It's this one. Let me show you this one. It is a rather older document already, but there's a lot of information in there about IDEs and how features work, how assemblies work, drawings, CAM, CAE, the concepts about it, some basic things. The downside is, and this is especially harder for people using Python, is that it's all written in VB. So it's not that easy to translate that to Python, and some things don't really work the same way. So that's one. It's a document. I would suggest to still keep it in mind and maybe scroll through it for the beginning. It's a lot of information there. Another one is the NXOpen Programmer's Guide. See if that opens. Yes. And there's also, you can see a lot of information about NXOpen. What is NXOpen? Available toolkits. I think there's also a section about the languages. how are journals going. You'll see that when you record journals, what's supported, what's not supported. Let's see if I can see the languages. I don't see the languages right away. Somewhere in here is also all the languages and the support for the different languages. So also a very interesting section to go through and read through. And then, I went back. Let me go back. And then the core one is actually the NXOpen Python reference guide. Just open a new tab. I hope everybody can see this well enough. And here, for example, the search functionality works very well. So if we go for listing window, we'll see the NXOpen listing window. We can get a reference to that. And there we can see, we can close a window. We can close it, we can close window, device, check if it's open. We can open it, and we can also write messages to the listing window. Here you can also see the inheritance structure of the object. If you're overwhelmed, don't worry, it will become clear once you get started. Now let's see if I can go back to my presentation. So the getting started document for NXOpen, a lot of valuable information, but it does require some basic program understanding to translate everything to Python. We got the NXOpen Programmer's Guide, which is, let me see, where was I? Which was this one, I think, the Programmer's Guide here. Also a lot of information there, so good to actually read through. A lot of it is in there. If you have questions, most of the time, the answer is in these documents. Then we have the NXOpen Programmer's Guide, really with all the NXOpen API functions which are available and the object models. I think I have that one double. No, that's the Python reference guide. I would like to also stress out the forum. There's a lot of knowledgeable people there who can help you if you have questions, problems, or get stuck on a specific topic. Of course, you know, they all work and they do it as a side hobby, let's say. So you can't ask them to make something for you, but if you have questions, people will quickly answer your questions and help you out. And also, this is the link to my Udemy course. I saw some questions in the Q&A about the course. You can find it if you type NXOpen Udemy. You can Google it. I think we will also share then this document so you can get a link to it. So that's about it on information and background on NXOpen and Python, what I wanted to tell you. So next, I'll just show you how to run a very basic journal. So within NX, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Just like that. So in NX, if you don't see it, we can call menu, tools. I always need to look, automation, journal, play. So this is what we can do to play a journal. And then this won't be for this session anymore, but in a later session, we'll also see how we can then record a journal. Let's start with play, and of course, the hello world. So basically what it does, it opens the listing window and prints a hello world to the listing window. Alternatively, you can also have your developer tab. If you don't see it, you can right click the developer tab, and also there you can play your Python journal again. And the next one, I will show you, we will be using this in a minute, is actually the internal Python version that NX uses. So for this to work, and you can try it on your own machine, you do not need Python installed on your machine to run journals in Python. And that's because NXOpen reads the code and executes that code in its own Python interpreter. That's also an interesting thing to know. So that's a bit short on Python. We will be installing Python on our machine, but that's mainly for IntelliSense to work. So it's not strictly necessary, but it will be a great help when programming. And I'll show you how I started. So when I started off, I didn't know about IDEs and Visual Studio. I had no clue what I was doing. So I used Notepad. Luckily enough, I used Notepad++ and the Python reference guide and journals recording. So to get an idea, this is what our Hello World journal looks like. It's very simple. But to get started here, you can type, right? You can say the listing window. That's a variable called DLW. It's an NXOpen listing window, and that is our listing window. And with that listing window, we can write text to the listing window. So if you want to add stuff, we can type DLW, and then if we do a dot, we don't really get anything. So we need to know all the things we can do with the listing window. For example, write full line, and Notepad only shows this write full line because it's been used earlier here. So that's how it knows that this could be an option. But for example, the close option will not be presented, even though, and I'll switch again to the Python programmer's guide or the reference guide. We're still on the listing window class reference, and there is a close listing window, but we don't know it exists unless we go search for listing window and get a close. So short demo to show that it's actually not that handy to write code in Notepad, but it can be done. Let me copy and show you. Let's just do that, save it, and see if we can run it. I hope I have the same one. So yes, so you see, there's our hello again. So you can just use the text editor to write code, but it's not practical. And that's why we want to use an IDE. And it stands for Integrated Development Environment. Basically, code completion and code checking it does while you're programming. And two popular examples is Visual Studio Code, short VSCode, and PyCharm. Visual Studio Code is a general IDE. You can do more than Python as a language, while PyCharm is really focused on Python only. And Visual Studio Code is not to be confused with Visual Studio, which is a completely different, much older program. So this is a lightweight, open source, almost IDE. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to install VSCode. It's going to be hopefully rather quick. Also to install Python. And the reason we want Python is because we need Python to actually provide us IntelliSense, which is the code completion once we're programming. That's the first two steps. And then the third step is we want to configure the NXOpen stub files so we can actually get also NXOpen code completion. And I will show you how to do that also. So the first thing we want to do is we want to search for VSCode. You can just click VSCode download, Visual Studio Code, download it. I'll click download for Windows. I've downloaded it earlier, so I don't have to wait for the download to start. Once we have this VSCode user setup, we can double click it. Oh, and I don't have enough space on disk. That's not good. Let's see if my VSCode will work. It will work now. Thank you. Accept the agreement. You can basically keep all the defaults, and you can add if you want action menu that VSCode is available under your right click. I'm going to install it. While this is installing, I'll also go back and look for python.org, where I'll download a specific Python version. It's not strictly required, but I'd like to keep my Python version the same as the one NX is using internally. And I believe if I run this, we're looking for 3.12.9. So that's 3.12.10. 3.12.9 is here, so I can also download it. If I hit download here, I'll take the next page, and then here I can download it for Windows, the 64-bit installer. I've also downloaded it already, so it's here. I will also start it, this Python installation. Strictly speaking, installing Python isn't so hard, but I would just want to pay your attention to make sure to add the Python exe.path, and I believe I will need admin privileges to install on this machine. I think in the meantime, Visual Studio has started, so let's finish. Let's make it big. And this is how we get to Visual Studio. This is the welcome screen. I will just hit the mark done, and that's our basic setup. First thing we want to do also is going to go to extensions, and we want to install the Python extension. It's already here at the top. Always be careful when you're installing extensions to make sure that you have a reputable supplier. In this case, it's Microsoft, and it's verified, so we can install this Python extension, and it will also automatically install the pylons below it, which will provide us the IntelliSense. I'll let that one install. In the meantime, Python is almost installed as well. And while this install, I can open a folder where I have some let's see, where I have it here. At the virtual user event, I had some simple journals. There we go. So we have our hello world again. Oh, yes. So because we're in an IDE and we're using code, it's important that we trust, make sure that we trust the code which we're going to use. It can act dangerously. I'm gonna mark this as done. If I now open our hello world, I can Control plus it was, I think. Yes, I'll make it a bit bigger, so hopefully this is a bit easier for people to read. I'll close the agent. So what we see here is exactly the same as what we just saw in Notepad++, but we have a lot of more colors, and that's because VSCode recognizes this Python code. In the meantime, our pylons has been installed also, so that also helps in reading code and recognizing code. But at this moment, okay, it will know the two objects which have been defined in this file, DLW, but if I hit a dot, I get an empty line, so nothing happens still. And the reason nothing happens is because, well, NXOpen is not known to VSCode or to pylons. So we need to tell it where it can find this NXOpen and all information in there. And for that, we're going to go to File, Preferences, Settings. We're going to check the extensions here. We're going to scroll down to pylons and also scrolling down to a tab called Extra Paths. And it's this extra paths that we will add an item to. And that item are in fact the Python stub files, and they tell VSCode and pylons all the things which are available within NXOpen and what you can do with it. And these stub files are located in your NX installation directory. And I made a copy here. If we go to C, Program Files, Siemens 2506. Normally there's a lot more folders here, but I just copy this folder for reference. Under the folder UGOpen, you'll find a folder called Python stubs. And it's this path, the Python stubs, not with NXOpen, that you need. You want to copy that. Oh, I'll just do Control-C. And we want to add that here, Control-V in our Python stubs. If we now hit OK, you might have to restart. we will see, it worked already, I think. We'll see that NXOpen is loading. We'll also see that it recognizes the module NXOpen. Give it some more time. And we see already just the coloring isn't there yet. See, suddenly we see a lot more. We'll see the LW, that the LW is our listing window. Let's see if it will kick in. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Now we get all the colors here. So now we can see, we can select the listing window. So we can just hit tab for completion. If we now hit a dot, we can actually see that we can do call close window, and all these functions on the listing window. So you can do write full line. So, and that's what I mean by code completion, also on the session. You can see that there's parts in the session, and those parts, you can have an open handler, all this functionality. So that's a lot of functionality which is available on the parts in the session. Typically, you'll go to work parts, for example, and also there you can see that there's assemblies, features, bodies, all sorts of things. So with this setup, now we are ready to actually start programming, and we can call, let's say body. So an object NXOpen.body, you can blank it, you can change its color, you can query its density, you can create all sorts of user attributes, get edges, get faces, get features, all sorts of things you can do with it. But this is basically it for the setup of VSCode. So install VSCode, install Python extension and the Pylance extension, and make sure that in your settings, in the extra path, what was it again? I think it was a bit higher. Yes, here, that we add the Python stubs to it, and then we're set up to go. One more thing I wanted to show about this one is that these are the Siemens stub files, and they are available since 23.12, one of the later versions, and 24.06 onwards. They're located in your install directory, of Siemens, your NX version, under UG-Open Python stubs. So in my case, it's, let's say, program files, but have a local machine. Typically on companies, very often it's a D folder or another folder. And if you have some issues, you might also want to add the diagnostic severity settings if required, if you see too many errors from the stub files, but at this moment it looks okay. That can also be done in the settings. If we scroll down to it's because I have my type checking off. So we actually want our type checking to be basic. That's a small thing I missed. Apologies for that. So if we now go to our hello world, there it is already. Now you see now is we get a lot of errors. That's because of a small issue in these stub files. It's missing the self parameter. So if we don't want to see this in our settings, we can go to I might have to look for them again. That's the depth. Where are they? Let me search for them. It's this one, the diagnostic severity overrides. We can edit in settings.json. And we need to add, I need to cheat a bit here, is a report. attribute access issue, and we want to set it to none. If we now save it and give it some time, all the red lines, underlying lines will disappear. So now we will see, oh, it's still loading. And so we still have our functionality here, right full line. And if we hover on top of it, we'll still see that the definition is right full line and it wants a string as a message. So from that, you can still get some information. Unfortunately, you no longer see the full doc string. If we click on this and we hit F12, so the button F12, this one, while I'm selecting this function, I will actually open these step files, and you can see them here, right? Program files, daemons, Python stubs, NXOpen. You see the definition of this full line and actually also some of the documentation with it. So that's also an option where you can go to get additional information on functions. So that was it from the Siemens stub files. Now, some people, I know that a lot of people are still on versions from before 2312 and 2406, and there you got two options. You could still use the stub files from 2406 in your VSCode setup, and that will work because we only use it for IntelliSense, right? It's still your NX which will execute your journals. And the tricky on there is that there might be newer functions in there which are not available yet in your version of NX. So that's a bit tricky. Alternatively, in the past, before this, I have generated my own stub files. They're available on this community link, and that will also be in the presentation then. This is also a post how to do it, set it up, and there's a folder here where you can download a zip file with Python stub files in there with a few for a few versions. NX12 and I think like Simcenter 2312 or something, and some older ones. Nice thing about these is it also contains nxopen.uf, but they're not perfect, and for that we need to actually downgrade our Pylance version back to the version of 23.9.30. And I'll show you still a quick demo to see to show you how it's done. So in our settings, let me clear my search. Go back to extensions, Pylance, and scroll back to my extra paths. And now I will edit this one and I will search for my own. I had my own. I think I had them here. Stub files. These are mine. Oh. My mouse seems to be hanging. There we go. Python stub files, for example, Simcenter 2212. That's an older version. I'll do Control-C. Go back to VSCode and then Control-V in there. So we've changed this path. If I click OK, I can now remove this one again. This is this overwrite. If I save this, we'll see that give it some time to load. We'll get an error here from mine on get session. That's normal. It will recognize the rest. Oh, it's there already by the looks of it. And I can also do NXOpen.uf, I believe. These files are quite big, so it takes VSCode quite some time to actually load them. And then we can define the UF session as, again, NXOpen.uf. dot get session dot get web session. That's like that. So that's how you can also use it to have the older UF functions in Python. Can be handy for some people who have historical code or these historical examples. For most people, it's not really that relevant. So these are basically the two options for the stub files. But we start with VS Code. We install Python to get PyLance extensions also. We configure with the stub files, and from there on, we can actually use it to write code. And for the other version, PyCharm users, I know that some Python users like to use PyCharm. I will also show you that one quickly. I will not go through the PyCharm installation because it takes quite some time. So I will skip that one. I already had it installed here. I see a question from Dave. You have items that are not yet in NXOpen. Good question. The UF is actually anything NXOpen UF-wise is actually a wrapper already into Python. So, and I don't think that developers or NX Siemens is still developing UF functions. It's just historical functions which have a wrapper. And I think most of them are there, but there are a few which are missing. And those are like UF functions which are using specific C++ language, which is non-existing in Python. And there you get a, let's say, language clash. So it doesn't really work. Question from Terry. NX11, I would say use mine from NX12. Because you can use the ones from Siemens from, let's say, 2406, but the difference there is so big that you'll possibly get a lot of functions already, which are actually non-existing in 11 yet. So I would advise for Terry to use my NX12 stub files. I'm not going to generate additional stub files anymore. I did it for my own, so I could actually code easier and get IntelliSense to work. When I started realizing that other people have the same problem, I decided to share those stub files publicly on the forum. But I don't plan to put any much more work into it. They are what they are, and everybody's happy and also free to use them. Will Siemens be releasing more structured or machine-readable NXOpen documentation? I don't know. That's a Siemens question.
Yeah.
That's a question to be asked to Siemens. I'm afraid not. But if you look at where AI is at the moment, they will also for sure be scraping the NXOpen Python reference guide and all the documentation which is online. But to give you a heads up, I tried it already. Not recently, but AI, ChatGPT, Claude, they are really bad at NXOpen code. They will give you fantastic code, and it does not work. So I tried it, but unfortunately, that's not an option. And the reason is that there's just not enough NXOpen code available for those models to train on to actually give you good results. And for Python, it's even worse, because there's almost no NXOpen code available. Hi, Martin.
We will get an answer for that later. So we do have some folks from product that are being contacted.
Okay, that's good. That's handy. From Martin, I will still cover this question, and then I will go over. I know Brandon's is also an interesting question. I will not cover debugging. To be honest, I don't really use debugging that often, and that's because of my history. I learned it like I showed in Notepad++, And I've learned to use the listing window for logging and my debugging information. But that's one. Another one is that the way Python works, and given that NX is written in let's say C++, C#, but not, or any other language, but not in Python, is that communication also doesn't always work that well. That being said, there is one option to do some basic debugging in Python. I have it covered in my advanced course. I also have an advanced course on Udemy. So if you really want to see that, you can check out that course. But yeah, debugging is very limited. It's not, let's say, native. It's a bit more like, yeah, what would I call it? It works, but that's about it. It's not a very useful tool, but if you're used to debugging, you might find it a bit more useful than I do, given my history. I'm still want to check on Brendan Wee's comments. So the languages, that's a very interesting question. Question is basically, is there advantages between, let's say, a C# and a Python? So for myself, I typically try to limit myself to 2 languages, depends a bit on the clients, either C# or Python. And there's close to nothing you cannot do in C# that you can do, sorry, that you cannot do in Python that you can do in C#, and it's extremely limited. So basically, it's a language, and like all languages, it's a way to communicate, and one is better at one thing and the other one is better at the other thing. People from Germany will know the Fingerspitzengefühl, and that's a word that no other language has, I think. So it will be the same. Python has some advantages, C# has some advantages. The nice thing about Python and why well, first, it's super popular. And the second also is that with Python, you can actually create your own packages and write your own, let's say, wrapper functions and share those and use those with others, just like any other packages. That's the NXOpen TSC package that Taryn mentioned in the beginning. I'll get back to Karim's question at the end. I think I just want to finish off PyCharm. So same issue here in PyCharm. If we hover above NXOpen, it says no module NXOpen. Same thing, we need to show its stub files. We can go to File, Settings again. If we again go to Python Interpreter, we take the pull down and select Show All. We get all installed Python versions. It's just the one I have here. If I click this one and then the interpreter paths, I get a list of paths here, and here I want to add a path with the stub folders. And I'll just go to Program Files, Siemens, NX2506. Hold on. Yes, these stubs. I can click OK, OK on the Python interpreter, and OK on the settings. And I've noticed that it's still not working. The reason being is that the stub files are actually too big for PyCharm to load them. So you need to increase its limits, and you can do that with File, Help, and then Edit Custom Properties. And there's a property called, I'll uncomment it, ID max IntelliSense file size, and I believe the ones from Siemens are about 3.5 megabytes, so you need to increase it to 5,000. I think these are kilobytes. Yes. Okay, did you guys see the first one? Let's go to Settings, Interpreter, Show All, click it, click the little folder structure, and then here click Add One, and then select the Python stubs again. Click OK, OK, OK. And the other one was the little hamburger, and then go to Help, Edit Custom Properties, and it's ID max IntelliSense file size. I think there might be, no, there's no code completion here, but 5,000 should do the trick. As we now see it, we should see, let me close it, reopen it. Should work. No, it's not working yet. Let me close PyCharm and restart. I need to get, I can see it here. Oh, you guys can't see it anymore. Let me move my screen a bit. Here on the bottom, you can actually see that it's reading all the NXOpen stuff. So it will take a minute to actually load everything. Because it should be finished. Let's see if I can get the screen back to OK size. There we go. Package NXOpen, package NXOpen DLW dots. There we have it. So here again, we have all our functionality available on the listing window. The same for the session dots, parts dots, work dot, and then you can bodies. Voila, and then you can just keep on typing. So, and you get all, in essence, whatever you see here is in fact the NXOpen Python reference documentation that's also there. So it's almost a one-on-one comparison. So I'll keep it here. If you want to use my Python stubs, the process is the same. Just use the Python stubs from my side. I'll close this off.
You can click through that link, the scripting engineer, to get to Frederik's forum profile. You can also find him under the scripting engineer. Google him anywhere. He'll pop up. The Udemy course will pop up. His personal homepage will pop up. That link will pop him up in the forums as well. And so again, there's a link to the forums because I wanted to make sure everybody had that before we go any further into questions. Oh, and what was the last thing? Another team asked me to put the survey up for you guys. It's our customer experience team. And they're just like, if anybody is willing to answer questions about how they're using the software and how they're managing it across their teams, they're like, please scan that and please help us do customer research. So it takes about 5 minutes and they're just trying to improve the console experience across licenses. So that is that. Back to the Q&A. We definitely have some stuff in the chat. I saw one hand raised. If you did want to raise your hand to be unmuted, this would be the time to do so. But we do have a question with 21 upvotes because it's NX and Teamcenter. That's always a winner. And then No, I will take you off mute afterwards. So let's do the NX and Teamcenter question, and then No will let you unmute.
Okay, thanks. Is it possible to link NXOpen to Teamcenter? To be honest, I'm not a specialist with Teamcenter. I know you can log in through NXOpen into Teamcenter. You can open files. So most likely the answer is yes. You can also change attributes with NXOpen. But I would have to double check that to give you a sure answer.
And there were some things in the comments underneath it saying like, oh, describing it, but yes, we can make a question about it. I think that's a good conversation for the forums. So people are giving details about the attributes being mapped and such. So we'll definitely copy those over so people can see it later.
Okay, hello. Thank you for this workshop. Well, I work from Navantia, which is the shipbuilding leader here in Spain, which, well, maybe it reminds you to your first work.
It does.
I had two questions. One was the NX Teamcenter communication with NXOpen, and the other one is how can we upload external libraries such as Pandas or NumPy into the Python standard in NX.
Yeah. So if you want to use external libraries like Python, like NumPy, Pandas, and everything else, what you need to do is you need to take NX and tell it to not use its own interpreter for Python, but use the one installed on your machine. And for that, you need to install Python, obviously. Always would recommend to install the same Python version as the one NX is using, that specific version of NX, to keep those matched. And then you need to actually add a few settings. If you go to my NXOpen courses on Udemy, I also have an advanced course there. And in the free to view sections, I show how to set that up. So you can you don't have to have the course. You don't need to get the course. You can just watch that section of the course for free. And there I take you on what settings with environment variables you need to set to actually make NX work with packages like NumPy, Pandas, and then basically anything, right? Also OpenPyXL, whatever you can think of. Which also leads me to oh, sorry, never mind. Does that answer your question, Joe?
Yes, perfect. I will take your advice and check the Udemy course.
Yeah, it's the advanced one. It's in the free section, and you can see it there.
Okay.
Let's see. Can I Suresh? So no, I don't compile Pile to DLL or XC. Theoretically, you can do it DLL. What I do is for simple journals, I put the journals on let's say on a network drive, and then I use menus. I don't have one open here, but you can create your own menus, just like you have an application developer. You can create your own menus, your own buttons, and then link all your journals and Python applications in the toolbar. And if you put all those on a network drive, you can actually, let's say, push it to the users. Another thing I like to use, and that's why I like Python also, is because you can build your own Python package. Then you also need to point NX to the external interpreter, like I mentioned just before to Joe. And then you can actually import it, let's say your own company NXOpen package with Python code functionality, which you can then reuse in your journals. And that is super, super powerful. It does come, of course, with a version history and version control that you have to keep track of and maintain. Question from Karim. Yes. tkinter requests, API requests, HTTP requests, asynchronous almost also can be done. Same thing also, tkinter is part of I show a little bit where you can build your own dialogues using tkinter in my advanced course. It's not on the free to view, so you will have to get the course if you really want to see it. There it depends a bit on what you want to do. If it's super basic dialogues, you can use tkinter. If you're going to go for complex dialogues, I think the NX block styler is an easier option. It's under the developer. It's this one. It does require an extra license, as you can see, but you can go into demo mode and you can basically create your own menus, just like you see them in NX. And it also supports Python, so you can still use Python in block style dialogues and do that. But it does require an extra license, and not everybody has that license.
Yeah. What about signing, DLL signing? If we are having a constraint to use only DLLs, what about signing of that NXOpen in Python?
That's a very good question, and that's one I don't have an answer to. I've seen comments on the forum. I've asked the question. Technically, there's nothing stopped because Python is a scripting language, so it does not compile. cannot compile Python code. So there's also no option to sign it. But if you want to share Python code with other users, as you would with a DLL, you need a Python author license. But to be honest, I don't really understand where that limit lies, because technically everything in Python is a journal. But again, maybe they put the limit when you add external packages to it. I don't know, and that would be a good question to ask for Siemens. On the other hand, if there's people from Siemens listening, I would ask them actually to reconsider licensing NXOpen altogether. I think it's a great source of innovation, and I think that gets only blocked by licenses. And I think removing all the licenses on everything NXOpen would actually improve innovation and sharing and actually increase Siemens market share. But that's my opinion.
You're welcome to have opinions. We appreciate them. Let's take Chris's question from the chat, and then after that, we'll take one from microphone, from hand raise.
Okay. Can we execute NX via Python headless? Yes, we can. It's the same as with the other languages, but I think it's, I forgot what is exactly. I would have to look it up, but you can just run NX headless from the command line with a Python journal, pass arguments, just like that, just like with any other language. Yes.
Okay. And then the question from Jim.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on the licensing thing. You know, Frederik said the NXOpen authoring license is not technically enforceable, but it's legally enforceable. So, you know, if you're authoring a program for yourself, you don't need an NXOpen author license. But if you're distributing it to others, just like if you would sign a DLL with, you know, some of the other languages, legally that license is required.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Thanks.
Yeah. That's good. Okay, so definitely got that detail there. Let's take a look at Chris's question. Oh, we did headless. So I think Ravi Chada is the next.
Yep. I think I mentioned earlier already, AI for NXOpen automation code really not working well. So maybe in the future it will change, but up to this point, it's learn by yourself, learn by doing. But of course, the recording, I think we'll show that in the next session. Then we'll go much deeper into NXOpen itself and the coding behind it. So, but typically with coding and a good IDE, with recording your actions, record small actions, and then your IDE settings, you can easily learn NXOpen and quickly make some interesting and useful programs and journals. But yeah, if you really don't have coding experience, it's still a steep learning curve.
Yeah, let's do it though. Last one.
Yes, Frederik. Yeah, what is the major advantages of developing the programs, NXOpen programs in Python that you can mention instead of a traditional method that which we are developing from the C# as well as Visual Studio codes? Like, what is the major difference that advantages from developing from Python? I'm asking.
To be honest, it's really, I think it comes down to personal preference. And I've noticed that in the past, people would, you know, be a bit more programming, would have people with programming knowledge will probably quicker go to a C# .NET style NXOpen language. But what I see is that the younger generation gets taught Python at school, Python everywhere. It's super popular, and there's just a bigger demand for Python. You can do both. With both, you can do technically, I think 99% the same things. The big disadvantage of Python, let me start with the disadvantage, is that in Python, the documentation and the support is much smaller. Like whatever you look for NXOpen code, nxopenjournaling.com on the forum, most of what you will find is either VB or C#, and they're very much related. And you'll find very little on Python. On the other hand, I really like Python because you can build your own Python packages, just like you have, NumPy, SciPy, Pandas. You can also build your own packages and actually work together on those as a community. And that's also what I wanted to achieve with nxopentse. I launched it as a package. Everybody can use it, pip install nxopentse, and you can start using that functionality in there. It also serves as example code for a lot of people. I guess I have a license for the author, so I can actually share nxopentse. But I do invite other people also to actually use it and start adding code to it, so we can actually build a library of higher level functionality, which people are looking for, and use it as a reference also for new learners. But yeah, it's like what I said earlier, it's a language, and each one has its advantages and disadvantages and preferences. I hope that answers your question or gives you an idea.
So hopefully everyone enjoyed the session, found it useful, found it a good starting launching point. We will definitely have follow-up sessions. I'm already pushing Frederik to do one for us in January at the latest. So hopefully that'll happen. Definitely appreciate you being here. Everyone who attended, Frederik for presenting. And
you're welcome.
I don't know, final words, any last word before we hang up for today?
Oh no, I think just one final word. I think I made a coupon. I'm not sure if everybody's seen it, but you get a lowest Udemy price with the coupon. I hope some people noticed it. It's virtual event _ October 25. Yeah.
Okay. Someone did ask about it. Hopefully they're still here. I told them wait till the end. He's going to show the code. So yeah.
I hope they're still here.
I hope
otherwise
so.
It will still be in the recording on Friday if people watch it.
But that's it. So see you in the forums one last time. You can click through there to get there. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us today.
Yes, thank you all for joining, and I hope to see you all next time.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone.